It's a way of the Mr. Quickie, oh yeah. Earlier this year, the good people at PrageU, my alma mater, go Devils! They posted a video titled, "If There Is No God, Murder Isn't Wrong." In the video, my old buddy Dennis Prager slowly asks, if you think murder is wrong, how do you know? He says that without God, there are no moral facts and that you can't know murder is wrong. So let's focus on that knowledge claim for just a minute because the entire argument hinges on that question. If we're talking about knowledge, not opinion, then there's a huge question for Mr. Prager for which he might need to think a second time. How does he know God says murder is wrong? I'm sure Mr. Prager will point me to his Bible and show me chapter and verse, but that is a matter of belief. Or opinion, not knowledge. Let's go one step farther. How does Mr. Prager know that there is even a God, and in particular, a God who cares about whether people murder? The fact is, he doesn't. His so-called knowledge is nothing more than a belief in a God who says that murder is wrong. But he doesn't know. Mr. Prager demands knowledge from non-believers like me, but when it comes to his own ideas, he settles for mere belief and opinion. Appealing to God to settle questions of right and wrong is like appealing to Bigfoot to settle questions of structural engineering. When you can't even demonstrate the existence of someone or something like God or Bigfoot, you can't possibly claim to know anything about their preferences. As I've said before, this is like claiming to know that fairies prefer ranch over Thousand Island. It's absurd. Questions of right and wrong become even more disturbing once we get into the specifics of Mr. Prager's particular belief in the God of Abraham. Mr. Prager has to tell us how he knows that murdering homosexuals, non-believers, non-virgin girls, and committing genocide is wrong. His God doesn't think those things are wrong at all and has ordered believers to commit these very acts, which Mr. Prager doesn't participate in, I hope. Is he preferring his own opinion to God's moral facts? I'm sure Mr. Prager has compelling reasons why he doesn't follow such injunctions, but then if he can reason and come to moral conclusions in direct contradiction to what God demands, why can't we? There are additional problems. How can we know which God to follow in the first place? There are many gods, and none of them agree on what is right and wrong. And if we're unable to determine right and wrong on our own without God chiming in, how would we know if God and his decrees were evil? In regard to good and evil, Mr. Prager lives in a purely theoretical world where God's existence and goodness is merely assumed. This is not knowledge at all. These are beliefs. But they have some very real-world consequences. Right this very minute, there are various groups of people all around the world who are murdering homosexuals, non-believers, non-virgin girls, and committing genocide. Not against God's will, but because of it. Mr. Prager himself has called the genocidal story of Noah's flood one of the most moral stories ever told, saying God created man without giving him a 10 Commandments or any other revealed moral instruction. Clearly, this was not enough to make a good world. That's right, Mr. Prager has stated that God failed to give man the necessary moral instruction to make a good world, and then when the world went bad, God just killed everyone for his own moral failure. That's what Mr. Prager calls morality. And it's right in line with William Lane Craig's claim that the murder of babies during the Israelite genocide in Canaan was an infinite good. That kind of so-called moral thinking doesn't happen without God. Now, I don't know that murder is wrong. No one does, not even Mr. Prager. Issues of right and wrong are not really knowledge issues per se. They cannot and should not be decreed from on high, though. We need to endlessly debate these issues in conjunction with the ongoing knowledge we acquire about human well-being. By the way, that's exactly how Mr. Prager actually lives his life. Despite his constant attempts to connect himself morally and philosophically with ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban, Dennis doesn't actually believe, like they do, that God's word settles questions of morality, nor does he live his life that way. That's precisely why he doesn't kill homosexuals and non-virgin girls. I hope the good people at my alma mater, PrageU, understand that. If they don't, they should definitely stop teaching what shouldn't be taught. Go Devils!